unmute بس.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كل سنة وحضراتكم طيبين. Welcome in this after Eid and after Ramadan new meeting of Egyptian Society of Nephrology CME online meetings. And we are to start with a good start, very hot start and very powerful start. Moderators and speakers and hope all audiences be with us in this very powerful start. We are to start by Professor Hesham Elsayed, Professor of Nephrology and Internal Medicine and Shams. We will speak about one of his important topics in hemodialysis, recent innovations in hemodialysis. And we are honored today to have the two presidents. Our two moderators are the two presidents. We are now having the presidents of a very wide area of Earth. We have honor to have Professor Robert Najm from Lebanon. He's the president of Arab Society of Nephrology and Kidney Transplantation, and professor of nephrology in Lebanese University in Beirut, Lebanon. And the past president of Egyptian Society of Nephrology and the current president of Afran, Professor Muhammad Hani Hafiz. He is the emeritus professor of nephrology and internal medicine, Cairo University, in addition to all of previously mentioned positions. So I am expecting a very, very powerful and a very hot session today regarding the lecture and the following discussions, the opinions and the comments. And let we go and leave the floor to our great moderators, Professor Hani and Professor Robert, to introduce Professor Hesham, as we all know, and add to us more of all introduction to Professor Hesham. So please, we will start by our guest today, Professor Robert, and followed by our host, Professor Hani, to introduce Professor Hesham and leave the floor to Professor to him to get the lecture. Please, Professor Robert, start.
Unmute. Professor Robert, unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. So thank you, Professor Yasser, my friend, and Professor Hesham and Professor Hani for the kind invitation to moderate this session, especially with this nice topic. And this hot topics will be presented by our friend, Professor Hesham Elsayed. He's professor of nephrology at Ain Shams University and chair of hemodialysis chapter at the SNT Afran and Egyptian hemodialysis guideline editor. So the best person to present this subject. And the floor is yours, Professor Hesham. If Dr. Hani will say something, the floor is yours.
Professor Hani.
Of course, it is my great honor and privilege to be with Professor Robert Najm, my dear friend. And this is a very important aspect because practically speaking, most nephrologists are dealing with hemodialysis. I mean, more than 50 to 60% of the nephrology population, their main interest is hemodialysis. I mean, the people who are dealing with transplantation are less, and the people who are dealing with peritoneal dialysis and clinical nephrology also are less. So hemodialysis is a universal topic for most nephrologists. And what is new in it is of importance to all of us. Professor Hesham Elsayed was pioneer in writing the first guidelines of the Egyptian hemodialysis guidelines in 2019. And today he will be, I think, giving us an update of what has been written in this 2019 version. Professor Hesham, please.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Professor Hesham, before you start, I would like to thank Dr. Rami Abu Bakr, our coordinator today, for his work with this session and for the coming work on our Facebook page regarding this session. Thank you, Dr. Rami, and please, as Professor Hani said, your floor is yours, Professor Hesham.
Thank you very much. I have here honored to be a speaker in two big kings of nephrology in the Middle East, as well in the international, Professor Dr. Robert Najm and Professor Dr. Mohammed Hani Hafiz. I am trying here in this talk to be an optimistic view for the next generation decades of hemodialysis that will fulfill all the patient requirement, not only from the survival point of view, but as well the quality of life. In the presence of the shortage of the organ donation, so hemodialysis is the only hope for millions of patients with end-stage kidney disease needing to be survived on a machine. So what's going on in innovation in hemodialysis? So the agenda is introduction of the magnitude of the problem of end-stage kidney disease, following new terminology in the dialysis field is intracorporeal hemodialysis system that's against the extracorporeal dialysis right now, as well as the implantable devices, the biohybrid devices using microchips, dialysate regenerating system to use only 5 liters, not tons of water to do hemodialysis session, going later on to what's called allohemodialysis perspective from the computer modeling. It's a new terminology. Some of the endothelial vascular graft, the 3D printing technology. I will explain my own experience over the last decade in the 3D printing technology. And lastly, back to reality after this journey of the optimistic view for dialysis. So let us start with some of the objective here. We all know that although there is a lot to think, but actually a little we can have. So what's meant by innovation? Innovation is a bridge between different ideas and their reality to be used. So the name of innovation is just a bridging between brainstorming, thinking deeply, and its reality. And if you look to the process in the research and development that I worked for more than 3 decades on the dialysis perspective in dialysis membrane, you can find that you have an idea with a brainstorming that emphasizes patient outcome. Then you have to define what you are going to do or what is the target. And then you can do prototype of this design. And finally, you have to test either laboratory test or later on an animal model or human trial. So this is a brainstorming. What's William Goff had been done years before on the dialysis perspective. He said that there is nearly impossible to obtain funding for something simple. Therefore, over the years, my laboratory has steered along always on the rim of bankruptcy. You need money to invest for dialysis. That's why dialysis does not change over decades from the diffusion and the convection process. And if you look before, what is the idea? Goff finds that he finds the patient need to be dialyzed and they need to be removed of urea. So he think about a cellophane membrane. And the only cellophane membrane available at that moment is the sausage cellophane. He cuts the cellophane membrane and put it in a priming of the 25 milli of blood, to which I had added 400 milligram per 100 milli of urea. And the fantastic result is the urea diffused from such a cellophane. This is exactly what I say, that it's an innovation in the idea. How it is translated later on a dialyzer, it takes decades to build up. So what is the problem in end-stage kidney disease? Compared to the incredible disruptive innovation that had occurred in other fields, clinical outcomes continue to be poor in dialysis. Quality of life is poor, cost of the care is enormous, kidney transplantation is insufficient to deal with the demand. Not more than 15% who are needing transplantation are doing transplantation. And if you look to the technology, 50 years ago in the computer, in the left side and to the right side, you find that why kidney dialysis does not progress to the same options here like in other, because it's money-wise, it's a business-wise, and it needs more. If you look to the wars, even in the wars, and you can find that the weapons are increasingly in technology very rapidly because it's a war and it's a money talk. So we have to think about that greatly. One of the great advantage over the last few years is to use the artificial intelligence in nephrology, starting from anemia management, vascular access creation, and dose modification, and finally, artificial intelligence and the machine learning in the dialysis. The thought is how to optimize and individualize that therapy regarding the hemodialysis machine or the patient's symptoms and monitoring. How is to predict its mortality, comorbidity, intradialytic problem like intradialytic hypotension. Anemia management model had been developed 5 years ago. However, most of these artificial intelligence protocols in dialysis is currently now in the model of the hemodialysis, probably a few years after that. On the wearable devices, artificial intelligence and the data transmission is essential with biosensors. So what's going on the next decade is to put artificial intelligence and electronic health records on all the issues of the hemodialysis therapy. So if you look to the dialysis machines over years, you can find that there is great advantage, not only from the size, but as well in the computer modeling and the great technology on the feedback control. The feedback control of the, for example, blood volume control, it detects when the blood volume concentration increase and can detect the intradialytic hypotension. It's nowadays available in many of the hemodialysis machines available. So the biofeedback control, for example, can detect the hematocrit of the patient. And if the volume of the patient is below 65 milli per kg, you can predict morbid and outcome, bad outcome during dialysis, including myocardial injury, intradialytic hypotension, arrhythmia, and may even can detect sudden cardiac arrest. It's a currently available technology right now. So what's in the innovation in maintenance hemodialysis? We have a sustained dialysis efficacy by convective therapy, like in hemodiafiltration, improved cardiovascular outcome, proper fluid management, feedback control by relative blood volume monitoring, facilitate alternative delivery modes like home dialysis, increasing in some countries like USA and UK, ensure vascular access permeability and sustainability and access management, and finally, implement continuous quality improved system with an artificial intelligence to predict the mortality and the morbidity of patients on maintenance hemodialysis. So this is a stepwise approach currently on the field of the hemodialysis. So what is our approach for dialysis? Should be targeting not only from the survival point of view, but toward the quality of life. To improve patient well-being, especially that immunodeficiency and infection. We all see that the patient with COVID died. Many of them died because they have immunodeficiency status. So dialysis alone is not enough. We have to improve the malnutrition, the dysbiosis, the treatment of other comorbidities like diabetes, heart failure, and efficient dialysis protocol with improvement of the immune function. both the cellular and the adaptive immune function. The unadjusted 5-year survival of end-stage kidney disease on dialysis, the best in Japan, the worst in USA. Why in Japan? Because in Japan, they are using bigger dialyzer. It will come later on this talk. Bigger dialyzer surface area and more permeable dialysis membranes that improve the removal of many of the molecular weight, high molecular and middle molecular weight uremic toxin. One of the major advantages as well in dialysis protocol is to improve that on the prolonged dialysis therapy. If we can find that the only, which could be an equivalent alternative to transplantation in the quality of life, is a nocturnal hemodialysis approach, giving the patient up to 8 hours, and the frequency may probably be from the 3 to 7 times or daily dialysis. So this is a key cornerstone in the dialysis adequacy, is to give the patient the right dialysis membrane and the right time. Looking to the future, the roadmap coming from the portable dialysis machine, we will highlight that. Then going more to the wearable artificial kidney, it's a fashionable way, it is not on the ground, but we'll highlight. And finally, to the intra device, that's implantable device with a prototype had emergent with an animal model, and we'll see that in a few minutes. Teledialysis, home dialysis, artificial intelligence to improve the patient outcome is important. And we are now saying that in most of the countries of the modern countries are encouraging home dialysis because it's more flexible, more convenient to the patient, and definitely decrease the mortality, blood pressure control, volume control. Now we have to be thinking in deep, what is missing in dialysis in unphysiological way. We have two problems. One is the frequency and the time, because dialysis is an alternative day and shorter duration, not equivalent to the native kidney. As well, we have a filtration function alone resembling the glomerulus. So it's my opinion that dialysis could be defined as glomerular replacement therapy, not a true renal replacement therapy. The bioartificial kidney, on the second innovation, is thinking about to do a bioengineered device to be functioning with tubular in a scaffold pattern to do a renal tubular function beside the filtration function on dialysis. And the prototype had been emergent recently over the last 5 years, consisting of two parts. One part is the nanoscale silicone dialysis membrane, and the other cartridge, which is the bio cartridge containing renal tubular cells. So this is a combined glomerular as well tubular function. The problem in general in the portable dialysis, home dialysis, or intracorporeal hemodialysis, we need to regenerate the dialysate. We cannot move with 100 liters of dialysate to do a dialysis session. So one of the perspectives nowadays is how to regenerate the dialysate fluid, so only you can use only few liters and could put it in beside the bed, for example, to do a dialysate, regenerated and clarified from the toxins. They used either some of them are the urease to remove the urea and the other, zirconium phosphate as an adsorbent that can absorb ammonia, cations, potassium, hydrous zirconium oxide that can absorb more of toxin and phosphate, and activated charcoal to remove medium-sized solids and organic compounds. By this way, in the future, you can use only few liters of a dialysate or a bag of dialysate that you can move around and to do dialysis even in any small, tiny place, and you can travel freely. On the same time of the renewable of the dialysate is a lot of the bags of peritoneal dialysis. So the ambulatory wearable artificial kidney with dialysate regeneration by sorpents are for both the PD and hemodialysis. On the upper part is the conventional dialysis and the peritoneal dialysis using huge volume of fluids, and this is for wearable artificial kidney with dialysate regeneration for hemodialysis and as well for peritoneal dialysis. Some of them will come to light in the commercial view next few years. So the dialysate regeneration come into researches and application, and you can use 5 liters of dialysate per treatment. So no more need for huge tanks to do a hemodialysis, can use hemodialysis in a tiny space as efficient as regular. The sorpent-assisted peritoneal dialysis, as well in the hemodialysis, with a regenerating zirconium-containing adsorbent and sorpents, and animal model had shown that improvement and the capacity of such a sorpent is very good to maintain in the cartridge adsorption, to maintain tiny volume of dialysate to complete the dialysis session. Coming to a bioartificial kidney. Bioartificial kidney, 2 parts. The filtration we can build, what we cannot grow. While the tubule, you can grow what you cannot build. So both of them are essential. During this year, 1 month ago, March 2023, could implantable artificial kidney in the need for dialysis, the regular or routine dialysis? Yes, it's possible, but we need more time to be done. It's done for the animal model and expected for the human trial within the next 5 years. It's the same hemo cartridge from the fibers and the bio cartridge from the renal tubules. This is the implantable artificial kidney. The theory is not new. It was implanted before on the hollow fiber synthetic polysulfone. And we know also that this was done probably more around 20 years ago by humans who tested the bioartificial kidney for patients with acute kidney injury in the ICU. Using the blood side, the tubular side, and a collagen-like material attaching the proximal tubule to the blood side of the hollow fiber. And this called at that time is the renal tubule assisted device. This is in the history, but there is no funding. And so Professor Hesham stopped 2006 because there is no funding to complete the renal tubular culture and growth. From that time, we think about post-renal replacement therapy, filtration, and the tubular function, and this emerging the idea of the bioartificial kidney in the implantable side. They got the win and the innovation in such a field last years, and they win about $750 million to complete the approach for the human trial and animal trial in the next 5 years. So that's called the intracorporeal hemodialysis, which means that we are not using a hollow fibers and the blood coming outside the patient. Blood will not come outside of the patient. However, there is implantable nanoscale silicone material that induce filtration plus renal tubules. Probably that in the first generation, they use filtration alone inside the body, inside of the body, and absorbent mediated material for regeneration of dialysate, and it would come in a minute. So thinking about that, we need the biosensors. We need renal tubular function. We need to be more physiological, more continuous, and not alone a filtration function. The device is like a cup of tea, and it's a kidney project showing that from the laboratory point of view, it could work, not need a pump, not need an anticoagulation. It's depending alone on the pressure difference between an artery and a vein, and then you can transmit that ultrafiltrate into a bladder, and the patient even can retain back his favorable micturition protocol. So this is what is going in the thought, or in the brainstorming, or in the idea. How it comes into reality needs years. However, there's some insight over the last year. The intracorporeal dialysis machines and the intracorporeal dialysis, meaning that we put a siliconized nanoscale membrane alone to do a filtration function. And this filtration function needing a dialysate, in which dialysate is recirculating outside the body with a regenerating adsorbing material. So it's called intracorporeal because there is no blood outside the body. How it solves the problem? Because if there is no blood outside the body, you don't need a bubble detector, you don't need or a fear from being blood leak or hemorrhage. You are not fearing of occurrence of severe clotting. It's just a natural blood pumping through an artery and a vein with a recirculating, regenerating dialysate outside. So this is the first implantable bioartificial kidney. And if you see the size, it's a small size, but that it's a realistic solution to the problem. We will see that on the next decade. It comes here for a continuous treatment, improving in the tubular function, and probably creating a bioartificial kidney as a permanent solution to kidney failure. The cells in the bioreactor are isolated from patient immune system by a scaffold, so we don't care about immunosuppression or giving the patient immunosuppression for rejection of renal tubule or antigenic stimulation. The usual GFR in this device is between 20 and 30 milli per minute, meaning that you transfer the patient from end-stage kidney disease to stage 3 chronic kidney disease, using a hemocartridge nanoscale filter and a biocartridge or bioreactor from the renal tubular cells. This is a silicon nanopore membrane, precisely geometry, precise nano. It's a 7 nanometer in pores. Why 7 nanometer? Because above 7 nanometer, you will lose albumin. The diameter of the albumin is that, so it is below 7 nanometer in diameter. So this is precisely engineered, and the level of precision is computerized and automated, so there is no possibility of any abnormal membrane production. Blood in and blood out is mostly pumped inside the body from the artery and the vein without any need. And if you are old enough, like me, we are using before the continuous renal replacement therapy in the late 90s by arteriovenous CRRT, because we can use that by arterial pressure and venous pressure pumping the blood outside. The cells are grown on a porous scaffold which allow water, salt, glucose, amino acid, and other every small molecule to pass through it freely without need of immunosuppression, with a high quality silicone membrane. However, it's important to notice that we cannot guarantee that, because patient will still need erythropoietin replacement hormone, as the type of cells here are not the cells of producing erythropoietin. So it's simply surgically implantable hemodialyzer, or called hemocartridge. And the hemocartridge is constructed from high efficient blood compatible silicone nano membrane and more flexible and more prolonged or physiological dialysis. The immunofluorescence of the renal tubule cells could be identified, and by the organic anion transporters in the renal tubules, you can as well excrete protein-bound uremic toxin that are hardly removed by the constitutional way or the conservative dialysis, that's called that glomerular filtration. So we are missing the protein-bound uremic toxin removal that could be handled by renal tubular organic anion transporter. So this is the intracorporeal hemodialysis and silicone membrane. What else? Lab testing is okay for filtration capacity, speculating it will improve the survival, blood pressure control, sleep quality, cognitive function. It will improve as well the salt overload status, sudden death from hyperkalemia. All this could be important. And if you are using both of them with a regenerated dialysate solution, it could be as a pet bag solution for dialysate and walking around and travel freely. Animal model had been started in pigs with kidney disease, and they find that urea, potassium, creatine, phosphate, and the other could be removed by this implantable way of the filtration. So we are waiting for that, and or are asking when the bioartificial kidney be available for patients, and is expected, if there is no obstacles in the production, to be 2030 for the human trials. Second one, for the winning the prize 2 years ago, is ambulatory kidney to improve vitality. It is the same concept of, instead of having hundreds of liters of dialysate, you are using small dialysate, but with the regenerated solution. So this could be alternative, good alternative in the current point of view, using few liters of dialysate and enjoy your travel away. Urea and other toxins are removed by sorbents or photooxidation of urea, so regenerated dialysate is clear. In one of the cheapest way to think about or to brainstorm a bioartificial kidney, they used as well the microchips, like exactly what's in the computer. And these microchips put something like checker that checks and lose certain toxin from protein. So it could as well, if implanted in the dialysate side or implanted in the blood tubing side, these microchips could displace the hardest uremic toxin, which is protein-bound uremic toxin, like indoxyl sulfate or picresol, to be checking, just checking, to remove that from protein content and freely removable by diffusion. It's another idea to improve the quality of dialysis. The biohybrid device had tested in the lab, and it showed a good results. About 15 microchips. It's very cheap. It's like used in computer as a scaffold for renal tubules. And this, if you are using that living kidney cells, you can do a lot of the function. Again, the biohybrid device should be protected against rejection via immune response by the scaffold. What's on the allohemodialysis? Allohemodialysis for last 2 years, it's just an idea, but I memorized that probably in the late 1980s, while one of my patients said that if I do dialysis against my brother who has liver cell failure or he has normal kidney function, if I put my blood into his blood and returning back again, they will remove the uremic toxin, potassium and else. So this concept is valid, but needs to be refined. That's why what's called allohemodialysis. Allohemodialysis, meaning that if you are using two sides, the blood side from the patient and the dialysate side from a body or a healthy individual, and circulating both of them at the same time, the toxins are removed from the child to the father or a friend or a buddy, and then excreted such solids. It's an idea of brainstorming. It's a computer model up till now, not done on any trial. But strangely, this over the last 2 years, there is increasing in the publication of the allohemodialysis. And this computer modeling showing that the healthy person or the body and the patient can remove a lot of toxins and potassium, and could be a challenge in child or pediatric patient with acute kidney injury. So allohemodialysis model, pediatric with kidney failure and the body, adult with healthy kidney, the blood of the adult body is pumped through the dialysate compartment in counter current from up to down, from upside downside, and the patient blood is coming pumped from in the blood side, not from the dialysate side. And here you are using a healthy volunteer as a dialysate compartment for children and pediatric patients with acute kidney injury. Removal of urea. Here is the patient, the blue one, and here is the red one, is the body of the healthy. You can find that it decreasing in the urea will increase in the body side. Subsequently, we can remove over time. Not only urea, as well from others like potassium and other toxins. So it's a computed allohemodialysis is a potentially life-saving treatment for patients with acute kidney injury and end-stage kidney disease. Clearly, proof of concept animal studies are required. There is no risk of viral transmission because we are using natural dialysis membrane, which does not permit viral transmission through the pores. Urea and phosphate in the computer modeling showing that from the patient side as well from the body side, there is improvement and decrease down of the potassium and urea and other toxin probably. The porcine type successfully completed 10 allohemodialysis sessions in the pigs. This is a trial in the animal model that should be validated later on by different techniques until get the FDA approval to start the human trial. In the vascular axis, what is the new on the vascular axis? It's going as well for the bioactive coating. And the bioactive coating, meaning that the vasocoat or the endothelial grafted synthetic material could improve the vitality, the longevity of the vascular graft. The regular synthetic graft usually failed shortly by deposition of fibrin and coagulation. However, the endothelial vascular graft showed much improvement in such way. So the next generation vascular graft will be for dialysis as well for others like stents, next generation bioactive, cardiac valves, as well vascular access catheter. In the vascular access graft, we can have the technology, the scaffold biodegradable scaffold, cell seeding biology. This probably may strengthen the life of the vascular graft in patients with end-stage kidney disease. Coming to 3D printing technology, I used that probably 10 years ago in my experiences when I faced a neonate need dialysis and we need to print up urgently dialyzer. 3D printing meaning that you put the design and push print and it would come with a device. So 3D printing could be like that. I did that more than 10 years ago. After printing, you can use computer modeling to see the makeup of the fibers, geometry, and improve the clearance and the KOA values. And you can use all the computer modeling to improve that. And we did that in Germany. These neonates, which needs urgent dialysis. Peritoneal dialysis was not feasible because she has an abnormality in the abdomen. And she used a neonatal dialyzer in collaboration with Professor Malcolm in Newcastle Hospital. And subsequently, this pioneered kidney transplantation later on after a couple of years. And the surgeon here used the same technology of printing out with 3D the parent kidney to see when and why and how to put the transplanted kidney into this tiny body. You can use 3D printing by MRI and print the photo into a device. You can hold the device. It's not a photo. Coming to what's on nowadays on the present, we have portable dialysis machine. Portable dialysis machine is essential for quality of life. You cannot carry luggage like hemodialysis machine. You cannot carry tons of water. So portable dialysis machine is another hope. Being from the fixed dialysis machine in the centers or mobile dialysis machine that can move from patient to patient in ICU, then to portable or carry-on dialysis machine, and finally, you can body-worn or wearable, not implantable, artificial kidney. This is example of Quanta dialysis machine. I worked on that on the endotoxin filter 15 years ago. The Japanese are trying to do a hand carriage dialysis machine like that. And away from the huge water container or water softener, you can use a smaller dialysis machine that could be carried out if we can do that with the serpent techniques. It's very feasible and convenient to patients to do dialysis with monitoring or teledialysis with data transmitted to the platform for patient monitoring, and the patient's outcome should be as well conserved during the dialysis with training program. A lot of insight or innovation in that, and sometimes they do inspired by juice dispenser that win the UK engineering prize to do the smallest portable dialysis machine. What is in before that was patients who are looking for wearable device. To my opinion, it will never come to light because it's a very technical problem. This is a wearable artificial kidney, and this is a trial to do in a human. You can carry the dialysis system and walk around instead of huge dialysis machine and water treatment. However, a lot of technical problem happen because you need a battery, you need a vascular access, you need a dialysis solution, you need a bag for ultrafiltrate. So the wearable artificial kidney faced a lot of technicality. Plus, you need a smart sensors because patient may die from air embolism. That's exactly the extracorporeal. And that's why the intracorporeal dialysis may solve a lot of problem. And to my opinion, it will come to light within 5 years. Implantable filtration system with recirculating, with adsorbent or sorbent regenerating dialysis system without blood outside. So this is the wearable. You need a lot of monitors. You need a lot of equipment. You need a battery. You need a vascular access. And so I think it will not be available, technically difficult. You need as well smart monitoring, smartwatch, multifunction patch, monitoring ECG. A lot of that you cannot. Data analysis by smartphones and sensing that. A lot of design had been emergent for wearable artificial kidney with bags and a replacement with the empty bags on that, and even put the design of the waste pump bag. I need to be sure that the filtration function here is continuous, but unfortunately, a lot of, because blood is going out, a lot of complication happened with air embolism and clotting. What is very funny, that they put a lot of fashionable design for something does not exist. So they put how to carry, how to put, how to release, how to put that on a cloth. You can put that on a carry-on or in the front of chest in a fashionable way. And I think if Versace or Gucci was live on our live, they will put as well their mark, and it may be a wearable artificial kidney coming from Versace. This is a clinical study on 6th trial. It improved the removal. The blood flow is slow, like 100. The filtration is very small, unlike the regular conventional dialysis. It's around 100 to 200 milli per hour. You need still anticoagulation, maybe prolonged time, but actually these trials had failed probably 10 years ago and does not move forward. Who had that cough as well? He was very optimistic until his death. He said that, okay, wearable artificial kidney could be a prototype for other artificial organs like artificial lung or artificial heart. You can use artificial lung for blood coming outside the body and coming with oxygenator or an oxygen pathway. So it's brainstorming, not more than a brainstorming ideas. Coming to my favorite, dialysis membrane. The goal right now is enhance the dialysis, what we have right now, until all of these brainstorming or prototypes come to light. We have to enhance the dialysis. We have to use more permeable dialysis membrane. We have to do patient more frequent and more extending time to be more physiological. We had been published this year from me and my team that we can use bigger dialyzer, 2.6 square meter, superflux that could remove a lot of toxins, including kappa and lambda light chains. And it's very promising for on the long term to improve the patient life and the quality of life. The dialysis membrane as well has been for innovation, not the porous, regular polysulfone, polyether sulfone dialysis membrane. They put a mixed matrix membrane with carbon atoms. This activated carbon on the dialysis membrane, 2-in-1 dialysis membrane, filtration as well sorbent for endotoxins from the dialysate side. So this is what's called mixed matrix membrane with an activated carbon on the outside of the membrane. The mixed matrix membrane for removal of protein bound, the hardly removed protein bound aromatic toxin combined with removal of endotoxin from the dialysate, and both of them are still in the laboratory phase. Heparin coated, we have heparin coated on the market. We have a vitamin E coated dialyzer. Is it good enough? Is it of value or not? Unfortunately, I will say it is not of value. On the clinical studies, they find that heparin coated dialysis membrane will not be efficient in heparin-free dialysis. Probably it is not inferior, but it is not so much superior. So I wouldn't be optimistic that use both heparin-coated or vitamin E-coated dialysis membrane to decrease the clotting. The success rate of 4-hour heparin-free hemodialysis session is lower than that previously claimed in uncontrolled studies. Vitamin E-coated and heparin-coated expose patients to similar and unacceptable higher failure rate. That's why it is not of my recommendation to use of them in heparin-free dialysis. You can use simply saline flush hourly. You can have the same result. So in Japan, mentioned before, that they are using superflux or high permeable dialysis using more bigger surface area dialyzer, and both of them show that X-large dialyzer with higher permeable with normal or extended time improves the survival over 3 years in Japanese society. So that's why we have to shift from even high flux to superflux. My last slides, according to the home dialysis is growing in the market using different dialysis, portable dialysis machine. Everybody should know that these portable dialysis machines need still water treatment station. They put that in a cassette-like for easy priming. It's a self-dialysis, needing no other co-workers or nursing. It's a self-dialysis, buttonhole technique for arteriovenous fistula with blood going to the dialysis machines. You can use all of them to describe what's happened. And this importantly that this portable dialysis machine will not be transmitting any virus. So could be sharing on a portable way in the hospitals, especially when the COVID had been emerging, that portable dialysis machines come into light, and the big market with supply chain problem happened because lack of suitable. Still, these portable dialysis machines needing a water treatment tank. It's a small, yes, but it's not a portable. You cannot move that on a train or an airplane. However, there is the aircrafts now thinking about how to transfer such portable dialysis machine through airplanes. They put the regulation. Is it inside the cabin or in the luggage? And so there's inside that this coming soon a portable dialysis machine. So home dialysis has a consensus this month, May 2023, saying that it is all individuals in need of maintenance hemodialysis should have an optional and the potential treatment option for home dialysis, economic and local policies have strong role in dialysis modality, and the clinical outcome are comparable and should be in the hypothesis that it's more physiological, less stress on the heart, more frequent, more convenient, more quick recovery time after treatment. That's improving the hemodialysis outcome, both survival, cardiovascular effect on home dialysis improving, definitely could be used in a different way, alternative day, short daily, prolonged nocturnal, anytime, anywhere. It's a small room needed. So this is one of that, and I come to Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for your kind attention. The near future will carry insight toward more physiological, more prolonged and frequent applications toward removing excess fluids and toxins. The current achievement are for a permeable and larger dialysis membrane with using that surface area is high, more permeable superflux, higher convection volume. The implantable, wearable artificial kidney is still running to be an alternative of organ shortage during 2030. And thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Professor Hesham. I will start بعد إذنك Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Hani.
تفضل.
Okay, thank you for the amazing presentation as usual, Professor Hesham.
Thank you very much.
As we said in French, there's an example in French, je dormirai moins bête ce soir. Hani will understand.
We'll translate.
And I will sleep less stupid this night. So,
thank you very much. It's just a brainstorming some of the fantasy.
Yes, this is excellent. It was a clear explanation. I have two small comments, questions, and one comment. What about the implantable kidney, the new kidney? It's a personalized one, so I understand well. You have to comment on for each person. We have to implant some tissue from the patient.
No, nothing. It's in two versions.
Yeah.
Because the implantable devices had been emerged 5 years ago from San Francisco University, and they still awaiting the laboratory working and the tubular culture, how to implement that in the scaffold. It takes too much longer time than expected, while they were in the FDA approval fast track. So they said that if we can do an I for intracorporeal hemodialysis, meaning that only the silicone nano membrane inside the body, you don't need the tissue, and you need just a sorbent-assisted dialysate renewal.
What do you think the comparison efficacy between peritoneal dialysis and this implantable machine? Is there any studies? It will be a study between both techniques, since it will have a clearance around 20 milliliters per minute. Is it comparable to PD?
BD is a renal replacement therapy as well. You know that we can compare between hemodialysis and peritoneal dialysis. You can compare that, the peritonitis effect, the hemodialysis, hemodynamic instability, the vascular access, a lot you can compare. And I always say that hemodialysis, peritoneal dialysis are filling on each other. You cannot say hemodialysis is better or peritoneal dialysis is better. You can personalize who is fitting for BD and hemodialysis. On the implantable device, definitely would be much more important and functioning well than BD if we are using a sorbent dialysate.
Okay, that's excellent. So my comments are for the future nephrologists. So we'll have an implantable kidney, so we'll have less work in dialysis. I think. So we
yes, I'm laughing because I did this talk 5 years ago We're
Yeah.
just inside of a bioartificial kidney. And one of the pioneer, my professor from قصر العيني, Dr. هاني حافظ عارفه, asked that the same question. And I told that no problem. We will get a lot of money because we will work on the maintenance.
Yeah.
So we can put that 10,000 maintenance program, 20,000 maintenance program, and like exactly the Mercedes-Benz. So no worry about that. We will find a job.
We have to learn how to implant the kidney, the new kidney.
Yes, yes.
So we are losing also in French our pain quotidien, our daily bread. So
daily bread.
So we have to push our students, our fellow in nephrology, to work on prevention of kidney disease and slowing the progress of.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And thank you, Professor Hesham.
Thank you very much.
Give the floor for Professor Hani.
Thank you very much, Professor Robert, for this discussion. And I want to go with Dr. Hesham for some comments and questions also. Regarding the artificial implantable kidney, from where they will get the tubules, because I think the obstacles was to have these tubules living or surviving without being degenerated with time. So
yes,
from
it's a culture. Yes,
they will get it, and how they will try to keep it surviving without deterioration or without putrefaction, for example.
Yes, that's the most important challenge in that is the renal tubular cells growth. And they started from the big renal tubules, starting before when they trying that. And they make a lot of design, how to make it a scaffold, how to get that in a living media and culture. And that's why Humus 2006 stopped, because they need a lot of research and the work with a financial. But the idea is still valid. In the same way, the first generation of artificial kidney, depending on that for the, as well for immunization effect, because it doesn't mean that the patient will not be immunocompetent, such a renal tubule. So they think about how to be away from the patient immune system, because it will be attacked. Exactly, you cannot give an immunization. This is the great challenge in that, and that's why the emergence, the intracorporeal dialysis first, then thinking about the tubular function later. The challenge is not still solving.
My second question is regarding the 3D printing. You know that 3D printing was a project from the United States and from Russia many years ago. And the obstacle was in getting the vasculature of the graft and the innervation of the graft. So did they improve these obstacles? I understand that the 3D printing was very successful in orthopedic, in, for example, getting a bone-like structure or a part of skull. When we do trifine operation, we can put, for example, a 3D part. But for a kidney, which with blood vessels and maybe also innervation, I think that there is a still problem. So do you think that this will come to success, or there is obstacles also?
To my opinion, it will never, because it's simply saying that what's in the first slide, you can build what you cannot grow, and you can grow what you cannot build. So you cannot build on a 3D renal tissue like a bag that hosts renal tubules and glomerulus, and that in an orchestra of functionality between the glomerular and tubular feedback and the blood vessels collecting system, it will never happen, to my opinion. But 3D printing in the manufacturing process, yes, I use it. It's an easy way. It takes about 8 hours to have a device between your hands. That's why when I came from Newcastle, they said that we need urgently a device that we can do a neonatal dialysis. I do that by 3D printing. you can have a device in 8 hours. But for a tissue, 3D printing, I think it's completely impossible.
Also, regarding your experience with the superflux or the double XL size dialysis, is it suitable for people who have a small BMI, or because we classically we are thinking that the bigger or the surface area of the dialyzer, maybe the patient easily may develop hypotension, or the procedure of dialysis will be more difficult. So what's your experience in doing these 2.6 meters in people who are not big in size?
I'm using this very big size, probably more than 3 years, 4 years before the COVID even era. And we published a lot of that studies on there is no contraindication to use that in a way of hemodiafiltration or renal dialysis, regular or conventional high flux dialysis. But you cannot use that in very tiny people. So on the same membrane, you have a 2.0, you have a 1.8, but in an adult above 70, you need to do that in hemodiafiltration or conventional dialysis. So the same superflux available as well in a smaller surface area. On the other hand, what is the difference in size? It's just 20 milli. If you are using 180 and 2.6, the difference is below around 20 to 30 milli blood outside the body. So there is no, I think it's a panic, just a panic from the physician to think that there may be an intradialytic complication. But you don't need to pay for what we are not in need. If you have 60 kilometer, can use 1.8 or 2.0, that's more than enough.
Regarding the allo hemodialysis, we have a risk of mixing the blood of the two persons in case there is a sort of membrane rupture, for example, or leak. And at that time, we will be confronted with a problem of like incompatible blood transfusion, for example. So I think this is rather a theoretical, not a very practical way, this allo hemodialysis.
Yes, sure. Because if you have a membrane rupture, you know that dialysis membrane is just 40 micrometer in thickness.
Yes.
Very tiny membrane. It's more than tiny that the hair of our head. So it could be a rupture, could transmit viral, could induce a severe immunological reaction, but it is an idea. Animal model, probably, maybe later on, you can use cross-matching before donor and the body. You can use parents to child with exactly that cross-matching as blood grouping testing. You can have some prophylaxis will apply to human trial.
A small comment regarding zirconium. It seems that zirconium now, zirconium has been used to lower the potassium.
Yes,
and now I see much zirconium in the absorbent. Yes, whether zirconium phosphate or oxide, in addition to activated charcoal and urease. So it seems that this zirconium will be the future for getting small dialysate or regenerated dialysate. You remember maybe 30 years ago that there was the READY system.
Yes.
And that READY system stopped, was not very popular at that time. But maybe at that time they didn't have enough zirconium to work and to regenerate this in a more successful way. And my last comment about the kidney project, you mentioned that it is $750 million.
Price.
Yeah. I mean, the invention for this kidney project is only $750 million, right?
Yes, the price is the 750 price for winner of the kidney project for this intracorporeal hemodialysis. but the device is speculated to around $100,000 per device.
Wow.
No, I mean 750 million, right? Million.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think this is not a big amount, because if we are speaking about the wars now in different parts of the world, they are spending this amount for an aeroplane or for a missile which kills, while this will be the future of the humanity. So it is worth paying this amount of money to get this future. Thank you very much, Professor Hesham.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I have some questions from the attendees.
Thank you, professors. Thank you, Professor Robert, and thank you, Professor Hani, for this. I have a question, and I have a question for Professor Hesham, and excuse me to ask him.
Sure.
To summarize all of these innovations, Professor Hesham, what is your major feelings? Are they directed mainly to the quality of hemodialysis, improving the hemodialysis quality, or improving accessibility of hemodialysis, or make it easier or widespread use of hemodialysis with much easier way? What is the main target for all of these innovations, do you feel?
If you asked me that as a human being,
yes,
and if you see that only 3.5 million of patients are receiving dialysis, but the actual needing dialysis is 9 million, and 15% from the Far East and Africa can have dialysis access, my feeling is to decrease the cost and widespreading the technology to all low-income countries. And if you are talking about the modern country, richer country, what is the hope on that of dialysis? I would say right now is the home dialysis. And if you think about that in the near future, what of all of that from dialysis technology will be, I would say it's supportable, because quality of life will be much important to travel to grandfathers and to have a trip freely. And if you look forward after 5 years, I'm optimistic of the intracorporeal hemodialysis. So your question has many facet answers.
Yes. And my second question, as Professor Robert said, to make me sleep less stupid. For the allo hemodialysis, what is the benefit can we gain from making 2 persons in hemodialysis instead of one? Just was the figure. 2 persons undergoing hemodialysis instead of 1.
I think in I put the design of dialysis in the Ain Shams University, new dialysis rooms, and I put separate rooms and living room inside the hemodialysis machine, exactly for the patient who's panic or elderly, just their family are still awaiting on the door saying it's finished or not for 6 hours. So I put that private rooms for such patients. And if you ask me what's the benefit, I think that it's a family burden on all that you have shared on dialysis with your child. On the clinical ground, yes, it could be of value. On the familiar side, yes, it's a charity between families. So why not?
Why not? Yes, some philosophic answer, but the picture was that 2 persons are undergoing hemodialysis instead of 1.
Yes, it's a family burden. Yes. Just a brainstorming. In this talk, the majority is just not approaching a prototype. Yes. It's a brainstorming. Some are brainstorming or idea. Some reaching the prototype, and some are already on realistic way, like home dialysis and portable dialysis and dialysis membrane. So it's a mix of hopes, wish, prototypes, brainstorming, ideas. It's a mix of talks.
Okay, thank you for this very interesting lecture. Professor Robert, you was going with the chat. Please go with the chat.
Yeah, there's a question from Dr. Khalid Al-Zurkani. He asks you, Dr. Hesham, many thanks for Professor Hesham for a great presentation. My question is, what are complications of implantable device in animals and how they overcome this? What about synthetic and endocrine function of natural kidney? And I think this will be challenges for implantable kidney.
Sorry, it was interrupted. The first question is?
What are complications of implantable device in animals and how they overcome these?
They find that it's working good, but they use that in normal and not anaphoric animal models. So
Yeah.
the dose should be optimized later on. There is no complication. It works well. No anticoagulation. No device clotting, and it works well for implantable device in animal model.
And the second question was, what about synthetic and endocrine functions of natural kidneys? And I think this will be challenges for implantable kidney.
Yes, for bioartificial kidney, I said that they have proximal tubular organic anion transporters for protein bound uromic toxins and other secretory function. But still, they will need erythropoietin. Mostly of patients, I understand removal of uromic toxin will decrease the use of erythropoietin doses, but still, the probability of erythropoietin replacement hormone will be required.
And also vitamin D, I think.
Vitamin D activation could be unimplantable, functioning well, but erythropoietin, no.
So, thank you. There is no other questions from the audience, from the chat.
I wanted to ask you, Dr. Hesham, what is the system that you are using to get what you are telling written on the screen? Which program?
PowerPoint.
The usual PowerPoint?
Yes.
Animation. PowerPoint animation.
Animation? Yeah,
Yes, it's an office PowerPoint, simply.
Okay, I wanted to get a lecture from you how to.
He's speaking about
private session.
He's speaking about what resembles translations in English movies.
Yes, because this is very good for those, for example, from African continent who cannot understand the English, for example, and just want to when it is spoken, but they want to read. So it's very good for when you give a lecture in Africa. They can read what you are telling.
I can imagine that it can be made with PowerPoint and animations.
Yes,
yes,
you can use it and you can stop it. I forget to stop it, by the way. It's stop.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we no more questions, as Professor Robert said on the chat, and I can say that Professor Tariq Tantawi, Professor Manal Deeb, and one of our colleagues all are thanking you for this very elegant session, Professor Hesham, and very elegant lecture.
Thank you for all.
To close
this
session, Professor Robert and Professor Hani, please, Professor Hani.
Thank you very much. It was very amazing. One amazing night. Thank you very much, Professor Hesham. And you took us to the future. And we are nous ne sommes plus bêtes ce soir.
Moins bête. Moins bête.
Return back to reality.
Thank you very much, and thank you for Dr. Yasser for this very elegant registration. And also, I think this will need to be seen by more attendees, because I noticed that the attendees are in the range of 70, although this is a very important lecture. So I I wish that you record it and propagate it to more attendees to get the benefit.
Yes, of course, it's
Professor-
recorded as all our sessions, and this may be the cause behind the number you said, Professor Hani, that all our attendees and all our targets know that the lecture link will be posted about some days later on our website
Yes.
and in our YouTube channel.
Professor Shaheen is asking for
And
the
if you observe for the number of watch on the YouTube, you can see that it is day by day are increasing more and more, getting more views. And this is we know that they not all are attending the session, but more and more are watching the record. Can you conclude, please, Professor Robert?
Thank you, Professor Hesham, for the excellent presentation as
you.
usual. And we are waiting to hear from you in the next month novelties about implantable kidneys. And we'll see you next week, inshallah, in Cairo.
Inshallah.
Meeting with
Warm welcome. Warm welcome.
What?
Warm welcome. طب.
Okay.
طب.
And we'll see the link also. It's interesting. I will distribute the link to my fellows, so it will be very interesting for them. And have a good evening and see you soon, inshallah.
See you.
Inshallah.
Thank you, Professor Yasser,
you.
also.
Thank you very much. Thank
to
you.
host us.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Professor Hesham, for this highly elegant talk. I was feeling that it was a journey to the future, and we came back and we can sleep less stupid, as Professor Robert said. Thank you, Professor Robert, for doing that. Thank you, Professor Hani. As usual, you are enriching us with your presence, with your talks, comments, and questions, and that's more to lectures. And Professor Faisal Shaheen joined us, but unfortunately late. And he is welcoming all of you and waiting for the lecture. And we hope to see him in next session. Before we close, I would like to announce about the coming session, which will be about the plasma exchange in critical care setting by Professor Ahmed Faid, giving us a highlight on center experience, which is my center, Asr Al Aini Hospital, Cairo University, will be in coming Wednesday, inshallah, 9 p.m. Cairo time. Thank you. Hope to see
Thank
you
you
all.
very much.
صباح الخير والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا جزيلا.
Bye.